Hey there, friends. It's Jason from PDX Rides. Back in May, I was in New York for a family event, so I made sure to bring my camera with me and found some free time on a Saturday morning to rent a bike and film some riding footage, doing a loop of Central Park and then through Columbus Circle down to Times Square. It was one of the first really warm days of the year, before the big heat waves, and both the tourists and locals were out in droves in Central Park. It was total chaos, barely contained by the intended one-way flow of the park route, as you'll see. So enjoy both the scenery and the thrills the Big Apple provides. Thanks for watching. Hold your line.
Zo, kijk eens uit. Zo kut dat je dan denkt, heel van straat hoor. Heel paal dan zo maar. Hardlopen en dan slow fietsen. Ja, maar de toeristen weten dat we dat natuurlijk. This is Patterson, yeah? Deze? Ja. Ja. No, mi sto aspettando che siete lenti.
Jesus, nice bit, hold your line. Boom, got it. Killing it, bud.
alla fine tu ci dire.
park in the middle, really? Oh, that's nice.
Who knows?
God, bad timing. Did not check.
Pô, você pode ir, sabe? That one's very confident.
Ja.
Point, please. Horse boat. On your right. People use these transverses like they're one way, they actually aren't. Slime body. Don't take pictures with a knockoff Mickey.
Wants to die. Everyone has an appointment day with death. The Bible said that is it appointed for man wants to die, and after that the judgment. My friend, you're going to have to stand before God for yourself. Hallelujah. I'm not a popular preacher. I'm not an entertainer preacher. I'm not a motivational preacher. I'm not a preacher that makes people money. I'm not trying to trick you.
Now that's the multiverse.
Mom, tell me.
your line.
Sure.
Look, I forgot to start recording it. Why am I getting no assist? Jesus Christ, it's One Direction, guys. Point, please. Horse boat. Oh. Jesus, nice big hold your line. Oh, watch your line, buddy. Christ. Now let me steer my scooter directly at you.